Hi, everyone. Today we are talking with Flor de Amelia Lizette Hoffman, who is first and foremost, a mom who also happens to be a BCBA. So, hi, welcome.
Hi, I just got shy. Sorry.
I invited you on to talk. We had met you. I'll just tell everybody this story. We were at AVAI in November, and Shayna and I went there a little bit early, and we were doing some workshops before the actual conference started, and we were just like packing up our workshop and just starting to like acclimate ourselves to the whole conference and to Boston. And we're walking through the hall, like schlepping all of our stuff, and Lizette stopped us and looked like she was like, I don't know if it was terror or shock or excitement. We were like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And she said, "Is it Shayna and Shira?"
I actually looked behind me because I was like, "Who is she looking at?"
Is everything okay? And yeah, so I guess you had been following us for a while, and you recognized us in the hallway, and we were like, "This is also our first time." Kind of like being recognized through How to ABA. And then we started talking and, we heard more about your story and really how much, passion and grit you have for the field, but also for your own family and your kids and the families that you service. And so I wanted to bring you on so that you could share that story with everybody. So we're very excited to hear that. And if you could start by, introducing yourself and telling everybody a little bit about you.
Yes. Again, I'm a little shy again. I'm sorry. I know that we were just talking. But hi, my name is Flor de Amelia, and I go by Lizette because it's easier to pronounce. And I got into the field because of my daughter. She is currently 13 years old, and at the age of 18 months is when she was like officially diagnosed with autism. But at 8 months old, I knew there was something wrong because she was having a severe form of seizures. It's called infantile spasms. And I knew at that time, sorry if I get like kind of like, I'm thinking back as like, it was not a good time for me. And I do want to discuss about like what parents go through, like with, going through their grievance stages in life. So again, it's like a very touchy subject, but I do want to share because this is what other families are going through. And I know like epilepsy and autism, but for my family, they do mesh because I knew at an earlier time that my daughter's life was not going to be what I thought it was going to be, because at 3 months, I was already planning my daughter's sweet 16. I mean, 3 months, me being pregnant, like I still have the book. And I do keep it. And every now and then I do see it, but I'm like, my daughter's still going to have her sweet 16. I'm already planning it. It's going to be in Disney World because she's a huge Disney princess fan. So I am going to make it big, just like I originally thought it was going to be big for her. So that's still going to happen for my baby girl.
And this was your first child, right?
Yes.
So I can't even imagine, like, not really being familiar with babies and kids, but then having to like deal with this and, acclimate to your new reality, having your first child.
Yeah. And it did not help that I was I was 19 at the time, and I was in my third year of college, or going on to I went to college super early because I didn't like Iowa, and because I didn't form like strong relationships in high school because I just looked different. So I really wanted to go to college even faster, so I made sure I did. But then when I was in college, it was even hard for me to finish because I was such a young mom, and I want to share that I knew there was something wrong with her. And the pediatrician, I took my daughter to the pediatrician, and I told them my daughter's having these, like, I thought there was something wrong with her neck because her head kept on dropping. And they were like, no, there's nothing wrong. She's fine. And they only happened in the morning. I even got so like out of it because they kept on telling me there's something wrong. And then I know it sounds silly, you guys, and please don't judge, but I thought like maybe my daughter was like seeing ghosts, because I know it sounds funny, please do not laugh, because like in the mornings she would wake up in such terror, and then she would like, her head would drop, and I'm like, but she would look, like I would look at her, but she would look over there and she's like gazing out. I'm like, what are you looking at? I'm like turning around, like, what are you so afraid of? And then I finally took a video and I showed it to the doctor, and they're like, it might be night terrors. It's night terrors. And then I did hear that it was like Tourette's, but then it was like bizarre, the things that I was hearing. But at 14 months, my daughter had a drop seizure. We were in the bowling alley, and I was, there. And at the time I was pregnant with my second child. And at this time, at 14 months, my daughter still was not being diagnosed. I just knew there was something wrong. And my husband, see, like I'm getting like, oh, because it was like so much going on at that time.
So emotional.
Yes, my husband, he was going to be stationed in Texas. We were planning our move out to Texas. The doctors like told us there was nothing wrong, but I knew there was something wrong. But I was actually happy leaving Iowa, because then I'm like, maybe I could get more answers from other providers. So then I knew there was something wrong. She had her drop seizure, but it was like she just dropped, like she like couldn't move. And I didn't know it was a seizure. I know what it is now. After I took her, I was like, I'm not taking her to that clinic, because it was a small hospital or clinic hospital. I was like, I'm going to drive out an hour away to Des Moines. And then that's when they told me it was a seizure. And I'm like, that does not look like the seizures like in the movies. I did say that. Don't forget, please. Like I was like 19 at the time.
Yeah, I mean, you were young.
Yeah. So I think that also did not help me at the time, because I would consistently go to the doctor, and I think they just like dismissed me as like the young mom. And they even did tell me now I'm talking about the Ames, like the small clinic, they told me to please stop calling, because there's actually sick kids that really need to be seen, while my daughter was the sick one.
Wow.
So again, sorry for getting emotional.
That is
we went to Iowa, and I was like, what did I tell? I was like, okay, well, I thought it was like antibiotics, like you give them and it goes away. I really thought, because I remember hearing about like my classmates that they would take like their seizure meds. So I just wanted her to have a medication and, it to be done. But I knew there was something wrong around like 8 months. So 9, 10, 11, 12. We lost several months of like medical intervention that we could have. In a way, they were telling me that we may have lost like the window of opportunity to kind of like really diminish all of her seizures. And I knew like every morning she was having something, and it came like, it was only in the mornings, and then it was during her nap times. And I told them it was typically when she wakes up. And that's why I said the whole ghost thing, like, what is she saying? And they were like, no, it's infantile spasms. It's mostly with head drops, and her arm would go up. And they were telling me, and they were upset that the doctors back home didn't tell me to do anything. And then this is where it got so crazy for me, because I was so upset, but then I was very picky. I was like, I am not going to mess around anymore. I'm going to find like the best neurologist. So I started like getting my second opinion, and then that second opinion scared me. And then I got a third and fourth. Next thing you know, I'm going to a different state. Next thing you know, I'm going to I went from Iowa, went to Minnesota. Then I'm going, I believe I went to Illinois. And then I was like, it's not, I need to know more. So then I went to Johns Hopkins, because, everyone knows Johns Hopkins. So I went there, flew out there. But then I didn't like what he was telling me either. And I think I just didn't like, because it sounded like it is what it is. Your daughter's gonna have seizure her whole life. And,
and you were pregnant at the time with another baby, and probably wondering, oh my goodness, what's happening with the other baby?
Yes, I was worried about that, but I was more worried that I wasn't going to have time to figure it out. Like I felt, the 11-year-old that I was telling you about, I still feel bad, because like sometimes I feel like I missed out on his childhood so much, because like we were looking through his pictures, and then a lot of them, it's like me holding Aaliyah, or me not really, like everyone's smiling, and I'm just like, like have to be.
As a parent, there's so many ways we can have guilt. I think we all kind of do that to ourselves. And like, I have also similar, not a similar story, but like, did I raise my kids right? Did I give them enough attention? Was I there enough for them? Or like certain things that you go through, and you have to remember not to be so hard on yourself. Like our kids are going to be so much stronger because of the type of parents that we were to them, for good and bad. And I think that they'll benefit from it in the long run.
Yeah, no, he does tell me that Aaliyah has taught him how to be patient, and everyone that he works with, he tries to, he's just so sweet. He's very patient with other, when I say individuals, I mean, like he goes out to the community. He's like, I think he's having trouble. I think he also may have autism like Aaliyah. And then he's like, I'm going to go over there. And then he just befriends them and he talks to them. And he's like, he doesn't want Aaliyah. Like he was sharing how if he can also be kind and he can show others to be kind, maybe when he's not there with Aaliyah, someone can be nicer to Aaliyah. Because you know how sometimes there's like certain disabilities that you can't see, but with Aaliyah, sometimes you cannot see. She could be sitting next to me and she looks like a typical 13-year-old, but then her vocal stereotypy, shows, and then she also then engages in her motor stereotypy. And then all of a sudden you see all these like distorted faces. And I try not to pay attention to that when we go to it, like outside of our community, because within our community, I feel like, oh, that's the girl that always goes to the grocery store. She's really sweet. And they stop talking about other stuff. But then when I go to like outside of my community, because I don't go outside of my community much with her because she likes certain things, then you see all these like eyes, like gouging, like what's going on over here? And they just cannot stop seeing. And it's so rude. And I don't know how to say that without like causing too much of a scene. I still get emotional, I guess, over those type of stuff. And she's 13. But yeah. Oh, and my daughter had 5 brain surgeries so far. And this last one was the same one that they told me to like do to her when she was only 2 years old. And it was where they like separate the left and the right, the connections of it, because all of her seizures were starting from one side and then generalizing to the other side, which was affecting her language. And that was like, for my husband especially, was like a huge no-no. And again, I feel like I wonder what could have been different if we were to say yes when she was 2, because right now she was before November of last year, she was having seizures every single day, several times a day. And it's typically, again, when she wakes up. So she's always had that story, those events. And now it's only like 1, possibly 3 times a week, but more consistently now once a week, she has a seizure. And for me, it's like, she gets all this break and now her language is like blooming like crazy. And I love it. I'm like, oh, you said that. And now she like also like talks back to me and I'm like, oh, I like this. I know other families are like,
wow, that sounds positive. But then I think it sounded like you're, since you kind of started getting some answers, you just kept looking for those answers and kind of took you on a journey into becoming a BCBA.
Oh, yes. They told us to do the speech, the OT, the PT, because my daughter was walking when she was 14 months. And then I have like pictures and she's like 16 months and she's on a walker again because all of those seizures caused her to regress. And I did see support in I did see help, and I did see that she was gaining her skills again, but it was in our ABA sessions where, because I was really worried about speech, like in most of her seizures where they started was in that language region. And I remember her, it's not singing, but it was singing to me. And the reason why I say that is because a family member was like, that's not singing. And it kind of like for me, it's more about inch tones, not milestones. And for me, that was singing, but it was her singing her ABC songs. And it was through a lot of trials that they were doing in ABA. And I remember it just being so happy. And I wanted to go there. It's like, good job. But I know like I didn't want to startle her. And I remember just sitting next to her session, like right outside the door. And I'm just like listening in. And I'm like, how did you like, I wanted to know like how, and I'm like, I know that we had our parent training meetings, but I felt like it wasn't the same because I actually wanted to be her RBT. And I did tell her provider, I was like, can I be her RBT? I know we're missing so many hours. I know we asked for these amount of hours and they could only do 12 a week, but I know can I just do them or can you train me to do them? And they were like, well, we can't hire you under, their company. Now I know why, but before I was like,
why not?
I didn't know. I love those parent training meetings because I was like, I want to be just like her. And I was like, can I it got so bad, you guys, because I was like, I wasn't trying to record their session, not to like catch anything, to record it so I can copy what the technician was doing. But I think in the beginning, maybe they thought that I was, I was like, no, I just really, really like, I wanted to learn everything about
like a dream parent.
Well, I have several families that I work with now that are very much like they want to know it all too, because they're like, oh, I see this growth. I don't see it at school, but I see it at home. And how come the school? And it's, I know there's more parents that are out there that really want to know more because it's like once you have a little taste of what could be or happen, you just want that to, you want it more and more. It's very addicting.
Yeah. It's like having the tools and needing to know how to use them. Right. And if someone has the tools, like, share that information.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So, I did complete my microbiology degree and I loved being we were talking about like work, how you can go to work and it's all good. And it was the same thing with me in the lab. I just love being in the lab atmosphere and I put my like music on and I could just do my work in the lab. It was so amazing. And I actually do miss it, but it doesn't give it all. Like it doesn't give me what I need to keep on going. So I became a stay-at-home parent because of my husband with all of his job, and I needed Aaliyah's daily seizures. And then I became an RBT, loved it so much, got my master's in ABA. And then, at school, they told me to stay in my lane. I'm sure you guys won't do that to your parents, but they told me to stay in my lane.
In your daughter's school. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Because I was trying to give them some suggestions about how my daughter could learn, and they knew about my background and they said that. So then that day I started looking up programs, how to become be a certified teacher. So then I got into a master's program for special education. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to become a teacher now.
After you had a master's in ABA, you went for a master's in education.
After she had a master's in microbiology and then a master's
that was a bachelor's in microbiology.
Okay.
I got my master's in ABA, and then I got my master's in special education.
And you had 2 kids at the time.
Well, I was having my 3rd kid, and I was having my 3rd kid at the time.
You having the 3rd one.
So motivated, and you are so inspiring to so many people. Just hearing your story and hearing your journey, people can look at your journey and go, "Oh wow, I can't believe she does it all." But at the same time, it's Sharon, I just found your story and your journey so enlightening. Like wow, like if you can do this, anyone can do this, right? Like it's amazing what you do for your kids and how your kids push you forwards. And I love hearing this story.
But thanks. But at the same time, like I want to share that I know it sounds good, but the journey was so
difficult. Oh, for sure.
But I hit a depression stage. Like I do want to share that part because I'm still going to school, but I'll tell you more about that in a bit. But I feel like if my mind is quiet, my mind goes in a very, I don't want to be too dark, but it just why, I'm not everything I do is in Aaliyah's name. I always share Aaliyah's name because I'm not going to let my daughter's diagnoses, I'm not going to let that be her. Cause everyone has a purpose and Aaliyah has a purpose. Aaliyah is very much she's very meaningful in my life. So I'm Aaliyah is going through this, but she is going through this and helping a lot of families, a lot of people. So I feel like I always have to share her name. I always have to share her story because she's I was telling my husband this yesterday also. I was like, I think I would be very selfish if I didn't have Aaliyah. Like I felt like in that time, like maybe it was also like the young me, when we're all young, but I really don't see myself being the person I am today if it wasn't for my daughter, because I have like my empathy, like how when, I don't know, does that make sense? It's just,
yeah. She changed you like as a person and, motivated you to do all these things, which is amazing.
Yeah. I don't think I want to be any other person that I am today. And have you guys read, I have to share this before I forget. Have you guys read the poem, Welcome to Holland?
Yeah, it's a good one.
Oh my goodness.
Why don't you share a little bit what it's about?
You want to do that? Or do you want me to do that?
No, just describe it. Describe what it's about for people who haven't heard it.
Oh, okay. So the person that they gave it to me too early. So please be cautious. Like if you guys do want to share that with a family member, just kind of like be cautious. It was too early for me because I was like, at that time that I received the poem, I was determined to find, like, I knew there was not a cure, but I knew that I was going to make sure she was going to live a typical life. So when they gave me the poem, it says, welcome to Holland. You were really supposed to go to Italy, but they were describing how beautiful Holland is and how, it's still a beautiful journey. But at the time, I'm like, I'm still going to go to Italy. I don't care. Like, yes, this is a nice stop and all, but I'm still going to go to Italy. Like, I hated that poem. And I hated not the person that gave me, but the action of that person giving me the poem. Like, so you have no hope for my daughter. I took it like that. Like, and I do want to share that, journey, as I'm going through this journey, I was a very angry mom. I was a very, everyone's like, oh, but I can't picture you being angry. I was like, oh my goodness. I feel so bad for all the other providers and teachers that had to deal with me at such an early stage. It's because I was going through different stages, and a lot of it was anger, and I hit a lot of my depression state, but I knew how to get out of it. Just go to school and have a purpose and make Malia's life very meaningful. So that's why I'm like, I cannot just stop with this. I have to keep on growing. I have to keep on helping people, because if I help people, that means that Aaliyah's, what my daughter's seizures are, all of her surgeries, everything that my baby has to go through, it's all meaningful and it's all worth it. And I'm sorry if I'm getting emotional again, but.
Well, what would you say to, other parents or families who may still be in that stage, who are still in the denial or anger? Is there any way that, you can recommend that they can move through it or move past it, or someone who's been there?
Yeah, I remember once we had this I can't remember, I think it's called Parent to Parent. It's a group. And I remember I was linked to a veteran parent, and they told me that it's going to get better, and that, I'm going to learn to accept it, and it's going to be my new normal. And I remember hearing that, and everyone is in such a different state, but I was so angry that they said that to me, because this is not, there's no way that I'm going to be okay with it, but I am okay with it now. My baby girl is like the sweetest person, like the sweetest, kindest person that I know. She is like, if anyone were to describe an angel, my baby girl is an angel. And maybe I'm saying that because I'm her mom, but it's, I wish I would have gave it more, had more faith that was going to be true, but it just takes time. Time heals all different types of wound, even though those wounds you can't see. Person can be smiling, but it's going to get better. That's all. That's all I could really say, because I know there's just so many emotions there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's the time piece, but you also didn't just wait for it to get better. You tried as much as you could to help her, and you went on, to become a Bcba. Or what happened after your master's in education?
Okay. So then Okay, so the whole point when I got my master's in ABA wasn't to become a BCBA. It was because I just wanted to learn. Like I really just wanted to learn. And then with the becoming a special education teacher, that was because I needed help in the IEP, and I was spending thousands of dollars in like educational consultants, advocates, and lawyers for my baby girl. And I was like, I could just spend the $40,000 and like put it on me. Like I could learn this. So that really helped me. And I wanted to share, and like, if you have any families listening, when you understand more about your child's IEP and you listen about the treatment plans, because the initial treatment plans and then like the every 6 months or it depends, I guess, which state you're in or what country you're in. However often your insurance needs to update that progress report. If you know more about those things, it'll help you make a stronger case for your child to receive better services, because I was able to prove to my daughter's school district that they could not teach her at a rate that was acceptable. So then now the school pays anywhere from like 85 to 95,000 a year for my daughter to have her, like, so she receives 9 non-public school services every year. And then she also gets private transportation. And if anyone wants any help on how to do that, like the private transportation, it's all like medical related because of her seizure, but it could also be due to safety. You guys can definitely put that on, like the parents can definitely, or even the BCBAs, you guys can definitely help your guys' families and also share that that's possible. But I think a lot of BCBAs don't know that they can receive non-public placements if the school cannot serve their client, child. So I wanted to learn more because I felt like my depression was going to catch up to me. I have to always be in school. I have to actively do something, or like my depression does get there because my daughter was still having her seizures at the time. And I knew her next surgery was coming up next. So then I signed up for a PhD program in ABA, but I wanted to focus on OBM because I was like, my daughter's, at the time she was like 11, going to be 12. I'm like, my daughter is going to need to work. I need to find employers. Like, who's going to hire my baby girl? Because I'm not going to say the organization name. They told me that technically my daughter would not be a candidate to be a job training, like to do the job training stuff, like school, academy, because she's like her functional level. I don't like saying like the levels, but they were saying that she's too low. So then I was like, well, if they can't make a space for her, I'm going to make a space for her. I'm going to find her that space. So then I thought if I got my PhD in OBM and I could work with different employers, I can make that space available for her and children like her. So I was thinking more of that route. And then the more and more I started going and following. Have you guys gone to the Autism Law Summit?
No.
So inspiring, you guys. So I was like, yes, don't laugh. Okay, please don't laugh. Please don't laugh. Oh my goodness. My husband actually hated me for this, but not literally, but was annoyed because I was like, you know what? I'm going to pause my PhD, most likely just don't come back to that part, and then really focus on law school.
I was just going to say, don't tell me you're going to law school.
I'm trying to study. If anyone wants to join me on this journey, that'll be great too. I'm looking for study partners, but I do want to do that because I do want to focus on like human rights. I'm really worried about because kids, it's only like a small percentage of their life. It's only, I believe I read somewhere that it was 2%, and adulthood is the rest of their lives. So we're only helping 2% of their lives. What about the rest of it? Who's out there for that? And I want like ABA to be accessible, like no age caps. So, but that's not what I'm focused on. And I feel like that's good for me because I know if I'm not actively doing something, I know I could hurt myself, like mentally getting to, I don't know how to explain. I don't know how to explain it.
It keeps your brain active so that your brain doesn't go to, like you said, dark places, but it's also keeping your brain active in a way to help your daughter so that, you're going to be your daughter's biggest advocate forever and ever. And, this is a great way to do that.
I was talking to someone yesterday who was, asking about how does autism get all this funding here in Canada? There's like, a nice amount of funding that they get. And I said, well, you don't want to mess with those moms, because when they try to cut off the funding, an autism mom can advocate like no one else. And I think that that's what you've been doing. And you've really shown that, like, don't mess with Aaliyah's mom. Like, she's going to like get it done. So it's very impressive.
I just trying to stay.
Yeah, you're just trying to do the best for your kids. But meanwhile, you also are doing your PhD and going to law school. And, you have a couple little ones at home too, right?
Yes. I have a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, and then a 9-month-old. So yeah, they keep me active. They're so good. They're so good because they're so good for Aaliyah. And I say that because Aaliyah has been so much more independent, because I noticed before them, I would really be like very vigilant on Aaliyah, be careful. And then, now it's like, I see you, Aaliyah, but I have my other babies here, but, you this. And then she's like, I got this. Like, she looks at me like, stop.
She's like forced to be more independent. She's a big sister now. You have like 3 little babies.
And she doesn't like it when the baby's diaper, it has the blue line. She like gives me, and she's like, come on.
Oh, okay. She's a good assistant. So it sounds like you spent a lot of time in schools and IEPs and consulting in the education field. And, being that we do have a lot of, BCPAs who work in schools, I work currently in, the IEP season right now. What would you tell to professionals who are having those conversations with families? Like not saying something like stay in your lane, which, clearly was not the right approach, but what could we do in those IEP meetings to be more supportive?
So I'm helping several families now in their IEPs, and currently I'm helping a family in Hawaii and another one in California. And then there's one that come to, and I have free monthly workshops that families can stop by the way. Because I know some BCBAs, they are not familiar with IEPs. So I always share that their families can come to my free monthly workshop, and then I'll help them develop and teach them how to make strong IEPs for their families. And I have one in Spanish and the other one in English. So
you'll share that with us so we can share it with our audience.
Yeah. And one of the things that I have a 16-year-old that I'm helping, and they haven't invited him to any IEP meetings. He needs to learn how to advocate also in his meetings. He needs to know what his accommodations are. So if they can please start inviting them, start telling them hey, this is your IEP. Let's talk about your IEP. These are your goals. That would be really great. Also in IEP meetings, if they can please share, because I for my own daughter still, I what is it called when it's PTSD? Yes. That word for my own daughter. I still get it, but yeah, because it's always before the whole non-public funding, I would prep myself. I remember a few times needing to have a little bit of drink just to get the courage to go there. Because it was so bad, you guys. It was so bad. I would cry before and I would look like I'm strong. And then inside I'm crying. And then I tell the IEP meeting, I need some time. And then just walk away, cry, because I didn't want them to ever see me cry again, because I cried enough in IEP meetings, and go in there and I'd be I'm strong again. And then I'm I need another time. And I'm laughing about it now, but it was really such a struggle before. But if they can please start the IEP meetings saying positive, but really positive, meaningful, positive things, not just something that may sound like it's scripted for all kids to say, oh yeah, your child's really, really sweet, really kind, really friendly. tell me specifically when, like, my child was kind. Tell me specifically when my child was friendly, was being social. Tell me a tiny story that's positive, because you're about to tell me everything that my child is, has not been gaining or still working on. Like, if you guys could please focus on that, that would be really great. I hated how they would always say mom. Like, I know, like, it was a pet peeve. Like, I know, like, I also, like, don't get me wrong, I also do it sometimes, but I do ask for parents, like, is it okay if I, like, call you mom? Do you want me to call you Miss Something? Or do you want me to call you your name, like Lizette? Like, well, that's my name, but you know what I mean? Like, it just depends. But I know for me specifically, it was like, well, mom said. I'm like, Lizette, you mean? But at the same time, because the reason why it became a pet peeve was because I was like, I never said, I think she's confusing me with another parent. And so I was like, I said that. And then I was like, because, like, they kept on saying mom. And I'm like, I don't remember saying.
It feels like patronizing almost.
Yeah. So then I was like, I need you to call me by my name to make sure that you're referring to me and not another mom, because there's so many moms and I know how many meetings, and they always tell me, well, we have another meeting and we have to, like, wrap this up. Don't ever say that to a parent. Don't tell them that we have to wrap this up. You please politely ask, would you like to extend this meeting to another day? Did we answer your questions? But when you, like, rush a parent, it's the rudest thing, and it makes us feel like you weren't really there for my kiddo. It's just something that you have to, like, check off your box saying that you did. Those are just some of the small things that I would ask.
And that's such great advice coming from a parent, because sometimes, like, from the other side, you tend to forget those things because you're in, back-to-back meetings where you have, like, 5 minutes in between. And sometimes it's easy to forget that there's a whole family on the other side of the table. And you're just thinking about, like, oh my God, it's been 3 hours of these meetings. I'm like, I haven't had my lunch yet and I have to go to the bathroom. But, like, it's important to remember that these are people, and this child is, a whole world to the family. And I love the suggestion of, like, starting with something personal and positive, because sometimes the people in the meeting don't even know the child, but make it your business to, like, get to know them and have something relatable to start with.
Yes. I remember one of my first meetings, I shared, and it wasn't a PowerPoint presentation. It wasn't that, but I did share, like, my visions for my daughter. And I think they kind of understood more where I was planning for my daughter to go. So they kind of had a better understanding. So now I tell families, I was like, in the beginning of the meeting, do you want to share, like, your thoughts? You could share, like, your dream board. I love dream boards, you guys. So I tell parents that you could share, like, a Google slide, and then we could like, put it up in the background, and then so everyone could see, like, outside what he's doing. You could share pictures, because we have to start it in a positive way, because this is what we do, like, every year. Hopefully I say hopefully that I typically ask parents, like, hey, like, in that 6 months, 3 months, just ask for, like, a little check-in, do an addendum, like, let's see how the progress is going. I know it's a lot of work for teachers, don't get me wrong, because it was hard for me also.
You were a teacher.
Yes. So I'm just saying, like, I know, like, don't get me wrong, like, I do understand it, but from being a mom, I knew how important those meetings were. But if we always started in a positive, making sure the family feels, then they don't have to have that. I can't say the word. I don't know why. The
PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yes. Then they won't have to have that, because I knew it was really hard for me. I'm like, I'm about to go into a really negative, toxic environment. And that's how I saw my daughter's IEP meetings. They were very toxic.
It's terrible that you had to feel like it was toxic, right? And that nobody in that environment was supportive or made the environment feel supportive to you, right?
Yeah, the teacher wouldn't even sit next to me. Like, I was like, she walks in, there's plenty of chairs, and she had to be the one that's furthest. Like, don't do that. Go sit next to the family. Let them know.
Be on your team.
Yes. Wow. That made me feel really uncomfortable. Like, I was like, I know I get emotional in these meetings, but you're talking about my daughter, and you're talking about a whole year, about her. So
what's next for you and Aaliyah?
So much. So right now, we're there's just so much. I don't even know where to start. But with I know that I have a new partner, and my partner, her name is Toyin, and we're going to be starting it's Culture ABA, where we're going to be doing in-home, and we're hoping maybe someday we can become a center, because my goal for Advanzos was to become a school, but I quickly knew that's going to be very difficult. But eventually that's still going to be a future for Advanzos in the future, for us to be a small school. But that's what we're thinking about doing. And then I'm also partnering up with another Bcba, and him and we want to do like a nonprofit. But it's a nonprofit to break language barriers, because currently right now with Advanzos, what I do is that I help do like job training in Spanish, and it's free for families, because I know ABA doesn't cover after a certain age in the state, like this tri-state, like, because I live next to DC and Virginia. And I also do like free advocacy work for families that have an issue with their immigration status. So he saw all the work that I was doing, and then he is also helping Spanish speaking families, and we're trying to break these barriers. So then now we're like, we can just do like a nonprofit organization that is all in Spanish. And then we're also going to, we're trying to do like support groups, but in like different countries, like in South America. So then that way we can train families how to work with like in a more academic setting for their kiddos, but also like in a natural environment. Also, don't get me wrong, but I just know that over there, the schools, like for example, in Peru, is very, very different. So we're trying to collaborate. We're trying to reach out to different, schools in other countries so we can help their families. So that's what we're doing right now.
That's it. Yeah, I think you'll have to come back and like talk about time management, because I don't know how you fit it all in a day unless you just don't sleep ever. It's really like, we keep saying inspiring, but like you are so motivated, and I don't know how you fit it all in. So thank you for sharing your story. You'll have to continue to update us as to how things are going. And if there's any way that we can support you, we are more than happy to do that, because you really have some great goals.
Oh my goodness, you guys do. I'm so like I remember when I first started my classroom, it was you guys, that all of your guys' materials that you guys have, like it was less stressful for me, like starting off as a teacher, because I was like, I got this. And I was like, oh my goodness, I don't got this. And teacher to pay teacher, it's really, really, really expensive. But with you guys, with the subscription, it's like, it's so manageable, and it's so nicely organized. I love your guys' organizational skills there. So it's like, you guys have really, really helped me, and you guys have really helped other families too, because I know, I think if I didn't go this route, I would definitely have found you guys and then make ABA accessible to my family. Because what if my insurance didn't cover it? Or what if, I could be reading this as a parent, and I could feel empowered over it. So I'm very thankful for what you guys do for our community.
Wow. Well, I mean, that's really why we do what we do. So if we could even have helped you, 5%, I think we're very proud of that. So thank you. Thank you for being here, and really like good luck with your goals. And I know you're going to crush it, because you've been doing that till now.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.